They say a man never really knows himself. I wonder, how well do you know yourself? Hell, it's about time.
Sorry, everybody. Hello, everyone. It's been a long while since I have done a stream, and I apologize. My room is a little bit of a mess here. Still, my mother is actually going to be moving in with us, and yeah, we're in the middle of moving stuff around, so I apologize for the mess. But I am so glad to see all of you guys here today. We've got Callison Caffrey. Did I say that right? I hope I said that right. If I did not, you can chastise me vehemently. Lady Mist, how are you, my lady? It's been a long time. And we've got Penny. Penny, welcome. So there's about 4 or 5 people in here right now, and I apologize. This is very, very impromptu. I wanted to do this because I was actually making, no less not my name, Callison Caffrey's what? Okay, well, that's what it's on here on my screen, and so that's what I'm going to call you. So that's okay. My name's not Speaker for the Dead either. Could I just let something out? Anyway, can you guys hear me okay? Is everything coming through? I've had to redo my setup and put everything back together that I used to use for streaming all the time. And so I'm hoping everything is working the way it's supposed to. But the reason I wanted to do this impromptu stream today is because I got a lot of comments on my Dune Part 2 video that I wanted to kind of address some of the critics, some of the things that were said. Okay, good. Lady Miss says we're 5 by 5, 5 by 5. So I wanted to go through some of the comments, talk a little bit more about Dune, because I tried to do a video to do this, and it was coming off wrong. And I'm like, I wanted to have interaction with people and to actually be able to hear and interact with people in real time. That's one of the things I really miss about streaming. Is that you can't do that all the time. So it's just, I wanted to talk about this because some of the comments I got were really good, really thought-provoking, and some of the comments were very good constructive criticisms that were, and that stuff I can need. And hey, a Dega Outlaw, boom, good to see you in here, brother. Like I said, impromptu, so I hope this is not just a mess, but Anyway, so we're going to talk about some of the comments, some of the things that were said to me about my video. It's got about a 64 like ratio right now. So a lot of people disagreed with my take on Dune Part 2, which is fine. I am totally fine with people disagreeing with me, like Loki and I were when he talked about me a little bit the morning after I posted my video on his channel, and that's one of the things I've always liked. I like it when people, even if they don't agree with me, they can tell me what they think and be honest, as long as people are polite about it. That's the only thing I even ask. But I had some people who were not polite, and I had some people who were saying stuff that I just thought was kind of a bizarre take on this film. So I wanted to go over some of this stuff with you, see what you guys thought, see if you guys, how many in the chat have seen the film? Throw a one in chat if you've actually watched this movie or been in the theater. Hey, Kamikaze, welcome. Thanks for popping in here. Like I said, I don't know how long the stream may go. Half an hour, may go 45 minutes. It may just whatever. As long as people are still interested in having a good time, then we'll just go forward. I haven't seen the new one. Oh, okay. There might be spoilers in this, Lady Mist, but if you've read the books, you pretty much know what's coming. So, but yeah. So some of the comments I got, if you guys have seen my video on Dune Part 2, that's great. If you haven't, that's fine too. Just let you know what you can kind of expect. So one of my points was that Chani got misused in this second film really badly. Her character was completely altered from what you're going to see in the books and stuff. And that was my biggest point, I guess, in my video, was that one, I felt like some of the reviewers kind of led me to believe stuff about the movie that was a little bit deceptive. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it's the best movie ever," and and stuff. And if it was just a popcorn flick, and it wasn't based on a series of books and stuff like that, I would say yes, it's a very good film. As far as the aesthetics, as far as anything like that. Saying my videos, Callus is saying is, yeah, sorry. It looks good on my end. So I hope that that's not a problem for everybody. And if you have to, you can come back and watch this later. I'm going to repost this as a video so you can come back in and stuff. But I love seeing the live interactions. But Johnny is the bomb in the books. Where she asked Boss Man if she could leave, and said when she was going to get. Yeah, no, I like Chani. Chani in the books is very good. But it's a balanced, even character. She is a balanced, straightforward, just good character. But in the film, I felt like the film was slowly being tipped in her direction. Now, it didn't kind of start out that way. It starts out very much as kind of Paul's story, but it felt like it slowly just got twisted towards being more about her, especially towards the end. It gets kind of very heavy about her. Like, you see her doing all the fighting, you see, and then the end of the movie, which was just and I apologize for this, Lady Miss, but it was just a Travis mockery of her character. They did her so, somebody put that in the comment on my video, they did her so dirty. they kind of did Paul and Chani so dirty at the end of that film, because that is not at all how it happens in the book. Not at all. And I am just going back through the first novel again. Hey, the lovely Sherry, welcome. Thanks for jumping in here today. But it was just, wow. The way they portray her, and somebody else put it in. Well, let me see if I can find that comment, because there was some really funny comments. There were some funny comments to the comments. and stuff. But let's see. Let's see. Yeah, this is one of the comments. So somebody said, at no point did I even remotely feel like Chani was the main character in the movie. Paul overshadowed her completely, as he should. I have no idea what people are on about. Okay. Well, then I don't think you went to see the same movie that I saw, because there was a lot of this female power thing going on in this film, and it is quite a bit more subtle than what we're getting in a lot of Hollywood films. Like, a lot of Hollywood films are literally just slapping the crap out of the audience with girl power, and it's enough to make you want to just I don't know. I would rather have spikes driven under my fingernails than deal with films that are like that. I don't like it when they go either way with that, where they over masculinize, and they over, like, it's just like, but just treat men and women like men and women. How about that? Crazy idea. Men and women like men and women. I don't know, but it just but then one of the comments that was said back to this was actually one of my comments back to that person, said, I never said Chani was the main character, but they did focus on her much more than was needed. And when they did focus on her, they completely misrepresented her character. She never treats Paul like an outsider, because if you know anything about Dune, you understand that Chani is the daughter of Liet, not the black chick in the film, the daughter of the male Liet Kynes, who Liet Kynes, as you know, is the planetary ecologist. He is not from Arrakis, but he is accepted as Fremen. This whole fundamentalist versus non-fundamentalist thing that they had in this film, like trying to show that the Fremen are kind of a divided society. They're not at all. They are very unified as a people. As far as, one, trying to get rid of the Harkonnens, two, they're trying to survive in a relentless, hostile environment. They really misrepresent the Fremen. Like I said, in one of the what I've heard, Liet was a desert creature. Yeah, well, I think that, like, Liet, I don't think is his actual name. It's kind of used as a title. At least that's the way the book describes Liet Kynes. And so they talk about him as Liet is a title, or at least Paul and the others misunderstand that at first, that because they're trying to figure out who Liet is, who is the leader of the Fremen, who is funny because he's the imperial ecologist. So I mean, I don't think he was from Arrakis, or not Arrakis, but yeah, Arrakis. But I don't know it for sure, because they never really get deep into his origins. I just always assume, because he's an agent of the Emperor, that he didn't come from there. But once he's there, he becomes very much Fremen. He becomes and that's the thing about the Fremen. It's kind of like the American Indians kind of a thing. Once you are adopted into their culture, they don't look at you as an outsider anymore. Like, once Paul proved that he was able to be everything, Fremen was more of a thing you became. It wasn't like something that just, I mean, because otherwise they'd have called them, Dunites or whatever, but they call them the Fremen because Fremen is a very specific thing. And now I want to say, and this is something I did not say in my video, was that I'm not a herbertologist. I'm not a Dunologist. I'm not an expert on all of this thing, but I do have eyes. And I do have pretty good reading comprehension skills. And so, like, I figure, like, after having watched the 84 movie, like, I don't know, 1,000 times, I literally wore out, I don't know how many different DVDs and Blu-rays over the years, and that I've lost or wore out or whatever and stuff. And then read the books, especially when I got older, is when I actually started reading the books. I didn't do that till later, I guess, in my life. But I just felt like the 84 version of this film is flawed. There are problems with it. There definitely are. Even Lynch admits that his 84 version was flawed, mainly because he had a lot of studio interference. A lot of studio interference. They were constantly causing problems for him. That's why he never went back and did a director's cut. When he got done with that film, he was like, I'm done. I'm out. Which I would love to see a David Lynch edit for that film, a version that he actually did, and would put his seal of approval on, because I don't think he ever really liked the movie as it came out in '84. So let's see. I can't get over that you like it so much with the weirding my. Yeah, no, and that's what I was going to get to. I appreciate that comment, because I was going to get to that. The way that Lynch changed the weirding way was a very big, it was. I mean, it was a very big departure. So, I did not know that. Adega, I wasn't aware that he got. Oh, he kicked. Yes, she did. Ollie was awesome in that. Sorry, I misread your comment. I've got two screens, and I'm looking at the comments on my smaller screen, so I may need to put my glasses on, and not these, but I may need to put my glasses on to be like, I can read it now. I'm getting old. I turned 50 this year, so I'm not as old as some, but I am getting old. But the '84 version, I think when Lynch made that change, he was trying to bring something that was more descriptive in the book, like a fighting way. He was trying to make it more of a visual thing, which I have to say, it is very, very rare that I think that Hollywood actually does a good job on changing stuff, as opposed to when they don't. But like Lynch's change of the weirding way really didn't bother me, and it probably should. But it doesn't, because it was so damn cool. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I like that, especially how they describe it. Certain thoughts have a certain sound, and which is equivalent to a form. I mean, seriously, I've got that movie practically memorized. So I know that they changed that a lot, because the weirding way is more of a fighting style. It's a Bene Gesserit way of fighting. It's one of the things that makes the Bene Gesserit so lethal, between the voice and their fighting style. I mean, they're very, like, the Bene Gesserit teachings are very much an internalizing of figuring. Yes, Onega. It is very much knowing your own body, understanding your muscles and joints, and I mean, it's just it is making the absolute most of your physical fighting form. But I have to admit, I liked the weirding way. I loved, especially the way that was portrayed in '84. I know it's not correct, but every once in a while, Hollywood is actually like, okay, I get it. I can understand why you changed that. You're trying to make it more visual. I understand. But see, I didn't feel like they altered the underlying story. And see, that's where I have problems, is when you start altering the messages that the creator, in this case Frank Herbert, is trying to get across. When you start changing the cultures that he created, you start altering the characters, the character motivations. When you start changing all of the basic fundamental stuff that a creator has created, you're not really making Dune anymore at that point. It's the same with anything, no matter whether if they did that to Harry Potter, if they did that to the Twilight series, I'm trying to think some other series as a book, Lord of the Rings. I mean, any series or books of creation, books that were created and stuff like that, man, I don't know. When they start changing that stuff, it's like, it's not an adaptation anymore. It's a perversion. It's an alteration. And it's what Hollywood does now. And that's one of my biggest problems. And I know a lot of people say that, that Hollywood just, takes other people's stuff and misuses it. It's like the kid in the sandbox that takes your toys and beats the crap out of them. And you're like, hey man, why did you suck? You suck. Why'd you do that? And that's what and see, in the '84 version, I never felt that. I never went, like, especially if you go listen to the audiobooks of Dune, it's kind of a cast of characters that they get to do. Scott Brick, who's one of my favorite readers, is actually in the audiobook for that. I was amazed at how close Lynch got the dialogue. The actual dialogue, the actual conversations and interactions with characters and stuff, it's almost word for word. Like I'm sitting there listening to the audiobook going, he got it almost dead on, conversation for conversation, word for word, like and like the characters and their motivations, like what motivates Thufir Howard and what motivates Duncan Idaho and Gurney Halleck, and like all of that stuff. You feel very much like those characters. The lady that plays the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim in the 84 version, oh my gosh, I love that lady. She is, I don't know if I ever saw her in anything after that, but she just radiates power. You know what I mean? She radiates gravitas, which, if you know the character of Gaius Helen Mohim, she is very powerful. She goes on in the other books, she is a major player and stuff. And in this one, I thought the actress in the Del Devu, I can't say his name sometimes. It's like Denise Villeneuve. I don't know how you say it. Anyway, I thought that version of her, like the actors did a pretty good job in the film. I have to say, for what they were given, I thought they did okay. They did great. I didn't see any super great breakout performances. I did like the guy that played Stilgar. He's a little too abrupt and kind of odd in the first film, which I never got that from the books. But what they did to him in the second film, wow, just so bad. Still, they turned him into this comic zealot. And like when they show him going to that council of women, he goes to speak to this council about Paul, and there's a lot of women, there's men and stuff, but the women in that council, I wanted to slap every single one of them. Oh, Stilgar, you're so stupid. What are you here again? Why are you talking to us? Don't you understand how stupid you are? I was just like, I was like, nobody would have treated Stilgar like that, because the Fremen never treated each other like that. They have a respect and honor for each other that, like, well, we don't see it in modern world. There's just this underlying "you suck because you're a man" thing now, and there isn't any of that in Herbert's novels. Like there's no racial overtones in Herbert's novels. Like he never says, oh, and this guy was black and this guy is Asian and this guy, because we're at a point in human history that we're past all of that garbage. Like when we moved out into the galaxy, this is 10,000 years on from anything we're even remotely close to. I hope at some point I can find out more about the Balerian Jihad, the war of the machine, the thinking machines and stuff. And I think they've written stuff on that. I've just never got into that. But I hate that you can tell Speaker is a father of girls. Yes, I have 5 daughters. Actually, I have 5, 1 son and 5 daughters. So, but I mean, it's this idea that Hollywood has, that they've got to twist the interactions between men and women, and they've got to tear one down to build one up, and it comes across in everything they're doing, even when I don't think that's the overall point. Like I don't think Denise Villeneuve did that purposely, but it's like it's just part of their DNA now. It's just part of it just seeps into everything that they're doing, that they have to kind of crap on men to try and build up women. I've known strong women my entire life. I grew up in Idaho, very rural community. I have seen some of the toughest women you've ever seen in your life, harder working than some of the men I've known. And wow. And it's like they don't get what makes a strong, because a truly strong woman is strong because she's a woman, because she plays into the strength of women. And men are their best when they play into the strengths of men. Like, and then when you put those two together, they mellow each other out and they knock off the rough edges. It's why men and women are so good together, is because they drive each other just crazy enough that nobody ever does anything really horrible. I've been married for 26 years, so I have a pretty good idea of how that works. And my wife mellows out a lot of the craziness that I'm sure that I would exhibit otherwise. I once knew there was a comedian that talked about that one time. Very funny. He's just like, have you ever seen a little boy and they're running around and they're throwing stuff and they're terrorizing, they're destroying your house and everything. He's just like, older men, it's the exact same thing. He's like, men are quiet all the time because if we spend most of our time in our head talking ourselves out of shit we know we're not supposed to be doing. It's like, don't do that. Don't touch this. That's not yours. He's a fantastic comedian. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but if I remember, I'll let you know. You guys can check him out. His comedy about men and women's interactions is really funny. Let's see. I don't like the change that Paul Atreides being curly haired and leading individual, how they're going to do the whole plot about fighting the machines and determinism if he can't yeah, sorry, I'm reading terrible. You guys will have to read some of these. I'm butchering when people are talking. Let's see. Hayden, thank you for jumping in here. I'm glad to see you. I said, no need to address my friend. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to address you anyway because, I do that because, I'm obnoxious that way entirely. But I appreciate and understand the grievances, being a huge fan of the books myself. I get it. Okay, cool. See, and if you went to this movie and you liked it, cool. Bless your heart. And I've heard people made comments on my video that said, what if this, this movie being a great popcorn flick and the visual aesthetics and the soundtrack and everything, what if that brings people in and makes them want to read the books? And I'm like, okay, yeah, but and this was my comment back to him was the problem with that is when they go to read the books, they're going to get a completely different story than the one they got in the film. And it's either going to make them hate the literature or it's going to make them question why Denis Villeneuve did what he did in his film. There's going to end up being a built-in disappointment somehow in that, as where had Denis Villeneuve actually portrayed this story, this book that he did in these two films, had he actually done that the way it should have been done, similar to like what they tried to do in 84, I think he would end up with a much better response. I think he would have people go read the books, come back to his movie and be like, yeah, these are great. You can pair these two together and you get something really even better. And that's what I loved about the 84 film is it made me want to go watch or go read the books. And then when I did, I felt like I was connecting with an old friend because like I said, the dialogue from the 84 version was so close to what you get in the books. The conversations, the like how what's going on with Alia. And but yeah, it is just I mean, like I said, I'm not telling anybody this is the worst movie of all times. I wished I'd have waited because I went and spent money, paid money, bought popcorn. I mean, and if you've gone to a theater lately, you have to sell a kidney pretty much to make that happen. And so like, I just felt like, no, it wasn't worth what I paid to go to. So I would have rather watched this on a streaming channel. Yes, the big screen was epic and the worms coming out of the sand. I mean, that was all great. The special effects are top notch. They're done extremely well. But it's been my opinion for years that if at the end of a film you walk out and the only good thing you can say is, boy, the graphics were fantastic. Boy, the special effects were great. Then you didn't see a good movie. You went and saw like a reel showing you how the new techniques Hollywood's using. if you don't stay true to the story, if you don't, and you know what, if he wanted to go make a movie about a sand planet and whatever, that's great, but don't call it Dune. If you're not going to make Dune, don't call it Dune. If you're going to make Dune, you need to follow the books. You need to go to your screenwriter and say, I want you to keep this as close to these books as you possibly can. Now, I do want to go and go back to some of the comments here, because this kind of proves the point I'm trying to make. And see, I started to Lady Mist. I actually started to watch the miniseries, and it was good. It was actually good. The sci-fi miniseries is good. The only thing is, it's the exact opposite. So you've got Denis Villeneuve here, and you've got the Sci-Fi Channel here. If you took those two things and went, you probably get something really great. The problem was with the problem that you get with the sci-fi version is that you don't get the great special effects. You don't get the great costuming. You get a lot of weird, like, Sci-Fi Channel kind of, and that was distracting for me. So yes, the story, what they did with the story in the Sci-Fi Channel is good. It is actually very good. I agree with, and I've never seen the entire thing all the way through because I couldn't get. It's like going, I was born in the 70s and grew up in the 80s, and there's movies. And my brothers and I were talking about this the other day. We took my dad out to dinner for his birthday, and we were sitting there talking about this, and that was one of the comments that got made, was that you know how in the 80s, like some movies from the 80s really hold up well. They really hold up well. They really do a good job. And then there's some of them that are just like, oh, I remember thinking that was really cool, and it's not cool at all. So, I mean, I kind of feel like that's what happened with the sci-fi Dune, was that it was like, this is really, boy, I know what they were trying to do here, but they just didn't quite. Anyway, so yeah. Let's see. You get the Wish version of Dune. I know, right? Can't I just make a wish and get the video? I mean, see, and that's just it. I didn't expect this movie to be perfect. I really didn't. I did not expect them to hit all of the politics. I didn't expect them to I never expect that from a film, because the time constraints are really too limiting. Hello, Cred Socks. I just read your comment and didn't actually say hello to you. What a jerk, huh? Anyway, so welcome. Thank you for coming. But yeah, it's kind of a problem where hey, Curtis YZ, how are you doing? How are you, my brother? It's been a while. But yeah, no, it's I don't know. I just think you've really got to. I lost my train of thought. All right, what was I talking about, guys? I got distracted, and shiny object. I'm like a goldfish. Whoo, hey. But no, I think. Okay, I remember. So if you're gonna do this, you've got to at least stay as true as you can. So like I really I feel like it's important that even though you can't include everything, you can't make a one for one of the book, unless you have a mini series, or unless you're doing a TV series, and then you've got loads of episodes that you could actually fit in everything that you wanted to fit in. But I mean, just look what they did to Avatar: The Last Airbender, Netflix. They smashed an entire season of like 29 episodes or something like that into 8. And they made another Travis Schumachery of a TV show. Like, I was kind of excited for The Last Airbender, Netflix, and then no. I'll just go watch the cartoon. It's better. We'll try a subject change there, but it feeds into what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to do it, you've got to do the best with what you have. You look at the 84 version. Now, did they go into the Chone Company and what the Chone Company was? Did they talk about how, like, that's basically where everybody makes their money? That Chone Company is basically like a monopoly, that like almost all products and everything go through the Chone Company, and that most of the great houses derive their income from that company in one way or another. And that's one of the main things that's going on behind the scenes in the story of Dune. No, they didn't. They did not talk. But if you remember when Thufir, Gurney, and Duncan come to Paul and they're going to test him, which is a little different than what they do in the book, but it's very similar. He says, the Harkonnens would not have given up their Chone Company contract that easily. So they make at least a reference to it. So like the people who haven't read the books and stuff like that, when they go to the books to read it, they're going to be like, oh, so that's what he's talking. That's what the Chone Company was. But in these films, they leave out massive amounts about the Spacing Guild. You never see one of the navigators. It's like it. I mean, and if you read the books, the Spacing Guild is one of the last schools of thought. I mean, they like the leaving out of the Spacing Guild is a huge black eye for this film, because it is one of the most important players in the entire Dune saga. That's what, spice. They don't really go into the spice and its effects. And all they had to do was add just a little bit more dialogue. They didn't have to go word for word or everything, but you do have to at least mention some of the most important stuff from the book. Because if you don't, it's like, why? Like, this isn't even the story. They don't really talk about the politics and stuff. Like I said, when an 1980s film can pull off a story and keep the major story arc of the books better than, and I think it was 135 minutes was what the 84 film was. It is right there in that neck of the woods. When it does a better job of keeping the overall story arc, introducing the main characters, the main elements, introducing the political backgrounds and the political intrigues of what's happening behind the sequences. What does that say about these two movies that are nearly 5 hours long if you put them together? That they couldn't even pull off what a 134-minute movie did, 135-minute movie in 84. I mean, that's just sad. That tells me they spent too much time on the special effects, on the this and on the that, and what they did to the Emperor. So, wow, I could literally go off on this subject for an hour, because Christopher Walken, great actor. I don't think he was the right casting choice for this, but I think he could have made a fantastic Emperor, but they gutted him. They gutted his character. They made him this frail, dithering fart of an idiotic human being that, like, you're sitting there going, why is he the Emperor? Was there nobody else? Can we get another Emperor in here? This guy's retarded. Like, seriously, that's what I felt like somebody should have been saying throughout that whole film. I'm like, because every time you see him, he's like, hey, Irulan, what do you think I should do? And I'm like, what? It's like, yes, he may have gone to Irulan as a counselor, and stuff, but like he would have gone to Gaius Helen Mohim before he'd gone to his daughter. He would have gone, like, seriously, you don't think the Emperor's got better counselors and people who are closer to him, like Count Fenrig? I mean, like they bring in Lady Fenrig and then they totally kick Count Fenrig out of the movie. But see, like, it was just a weird thing that they did. Like, they left out huge chunks, bits and pieces, and by the time I got done, I was just like, I just felt like, why didn't he just make a different movie? Seriously, why didn't he just make a different movie? Because he didn't make Dune. He did not make Dune. He made, it's like, Spam, something posing as meat. It felt like that. It was like something posing as Dune. Hail, Chris Persia. Thanks for jumping in here today. Let's see. Just stick to your opinion. I got smack for not liking Venom movies. see, and I thought the Venom movies were good. But they are not accurate. I don't think they're accurate even in a little bit to the source material and stuff. But see, I'm not a huge Venom fan, but I would not see them there. Okay, that's one of the biggest things I want to bring up in this, and I say that a lot because there's a lot of things I want to bring up. But in this, in my original video, I kept having people come back at me with, "Well, I liked it, so you're dumb," and I'm like, "What?" I even had people that were saying like, "Well, I'm not a huge Dune fan, but I liked it, and I think you're stupid." So wait, let me get the. That's like me going to. That would be like me going to somebody who loves basketball or loves baseball or loves whatever, and I go in and I start talking smack about Bo Bob Fiddly Fofum or whoever this guy likes as a baseball player, and I go in and start telling them how the rules are dumb. They should change the rules because I think so. And they ask me, "So what do you like? Do you like basketball or baseball?" And I'm like, "No, I've never even watched a game. I don't know until I saw this game. I'd never watched a game. But see, you guys are all dumb. You don't understand." And it's Johnny come latelys coming into a story or coming into something and trying to tell the people who've been there for 20 or 30 years that they're dumb for not liking something like this. It's like, I didn't say you couldn't like it. I just said it wasn't Dune, which it isn't. It's something like Dune. And that's the problem with it. But that's what Hollywood does now. They buy IPs, they buy book series, they buy another TV show, or like I saw recently in fact, I think it was a trailer that they showed during the Dune 2 previews for Mad Maxine. It actually hurt. It physically hurt me to see that trailer, that they've turned the Mad Max franchise into a chick story. The Mad Max is now basically a what, and I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's not Mad Max, but it's like they're going back and they're probably going to try and rewrite Mad Max, saying this girl came first. And you know what? And I liked the last Mad Max. It wasn't the best thing ever, but I liked Tom Hardy in it. I liked, and Shanice Theron, I thought she did a good job in it, but I mean, I felt like it was a fairly balanced film. Anyway, but it's like that. They're taking something and turning it into something it never was. And I have a problem with that because I don't do that to other, like if you tell me about something that I'm not familiar with, and then I don't know, I'm not going to come at you and say, "You're stupid. You don't know what you're talking about. I've been here for 5 minutes and I know everything now." You'd laugh me out of the room. You'd bitch slap me up against the wall and be like, "Get out of here. Get out of here." Pardon my swear. Lord, I apologize. Be the starving piggins down in New Guinea. Amen. So yeah, there's a lot happening in the chat. Let me go back here. Let's see. Chris Purr, let's see. Nope. I read that one. All right, I missed some. So Callison Cat. I like being dumb. Me too. There's days when I like being dumb. I'll admit that. That's how it usually goes. Everyone is a little dictator. If you don't agree with it, you're becoming. I know. When did that? I mean, I've been alive 50 years, and I'm not exactly sure when that changed. When disagreeing with somebody about something what became a capital offense, where you don't agree with me, off with his head. I mean, they become the queen from Alice in Wonderland, trying to kill people over their pit. I don't know when that started, but wow, does that need to stop? Because it's just a tragedy. What so many Lady Miss says remakes. I love the books into movies that let's see remakes of loved books into movies are always going to be different. Case in point, Phantom books by Kuntz. Let's see, on whatever the heck that movie they based. Yeah, and see, like I said, I don't expect them to be perfect, but I do expect them to follow the story, stay true to the characters. I mean, if you're not going to do that, tell a different story. Go make up your own thing. I mean, I don't like Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder's overrated. I like Spartan or the 300, and Like, it was one of the last things I like. Everybody's like, Zack Snyder's so amazing. Well, Zack Snyder, for all of his faults, he wanted to make Star Wars, and Disney was like, no, which is fine. I don't know, whatever. I mean, Disney's got to spend their time finding really horrible people to write and produce their stuff. So so you would think Zack Snyder fit right in. I'm sorry if any of you are Zack Snyder fans. I apologize, but at least Zack Snyder, when he got told no, said, well, fine, I'll go make something else that's my version of Star Wars. But he didn't try and make something that wasn't Star Wars and slap a Star Wars label on it and go, see, it's Star Wars. He didn't do that. So, I mean, I have to at least give him kudos for being honest. When he, and who knows, maybe he'd have made the greatest Star Wars film of all time. I can't even say that with a straight face. Anyway, so let's go back to some of these comments because I do want to go through some of this. All right. Guys, you have to bear with me. There was a lot of comments, and so I liked this one. If any adaptation that will not bother to get the shields correct will not bother to get the story correct, which is true. They leave out the part that, like, they leave out a lot. They leave out a lot in these books, like a lot. Now, they left out a lot in the 84 version, but it's like, anyway, because I mean, in the books, they never mention laser guns in this. They didn't mention that in the 84 version either. So, take it for criticism. But like, if a laser gun makes contact with a shield, you essentially get a nuclear explosion, like a fission reaction happens and large kaboom. I mean, it is like, and all of that is just completely left out. I don't know. It was kind of bizarre. Let's see. Where's these? I got to find these comments that were just like crazy. Okay, so here's one. Somebody makes a comment. Says no one talks about it, but what the F happened to Paul having mentat abilities? They make no mention of it in the films. They don't utter a word. Where were the scenes of the Baron and Howat? Where was Count Fenrig? Alia might as well have not been in the story for all that she mattered. There was so much missed. Nearly half of the meat of the story is left out. They gutted this shit beyond recognition. So that's one of the guys actually agreed with me. And then somebody had this comment, said, as Denise, whatever, said, his version focused on the Bene Gesserit, not because that's all there was, but because that's what speaks to him and that's what he wanted to depict. So is that like the whole, oh, this is my truth. This is my truth, and that's the only truth that matters is my truth. Okay, I hate to tell people this, and I may break some hearts here today, and I hope not. There's just the truth. There is no such thing as your truth. You have an opinion, you have a belief, and there is that, but you don't have your own truth. You don't get that. Nobody gets that. You just have the truth, and everything else is just kind of no. Mm-mm. That's opinion or whatever, unless you are actually spouting truth. Get it? Yes. And welcome, Lupercat. Did I say that right? I really apologize. If I did not say that right, you can chastise me terrible. Sometimes I'm terrible with names, so I apologize for that. Lord, I apologize. But yeah, no, and so, but you can't just be like, well, I like the Bene Gesserit. Then you should have called the movie Dune the Bene Gesserits or something, but no. No, you don't just get to, and see, I've heard people making that comment a lot about any criticisms that come up. Well, Denise Villeneuve said that he did this for a reason and that makes it all okay. No, it doesn't. It's not okay. Just because that's what he wanted to do doesn't make it okay. I don't care if you bought the rights to it. I don't care if you got permission. I don't no. Like, you don't get to just pick and choose what you like and then leave out everything else. because like then you're not really doing Dune. And I know I keep saying that, but that's the overall point of this. All right, Curtis says the bald. Let's see, the bald actor bad guy did awesome though. The Baron, I don't know who it was. He floated. He floated LOL, but the actor is great and was pretty intimidating. He was probably the best part of the movie, in my opinion. Yeah, Stellan Skarsgård did the Baron Vladimir Harkonnen. I love him. He is such a great actor and was so underutilized in this film. Kenneth McMillan in the '84 version got more screen time than the Baron in these two films. Like I felt like, especially in the first one, I felt like Baron Vladimir Harkonnen showed up, said 3 words, and then left, and showed up, said 3 words, and then left. Showed up 3, and I'm just like, where the hell? I'm like, I felt like they really underutilized Stellan Skarsgård. I think I'm saying that right, Stellan Skarsgård, correctly. I felt like they underutilized. Same thing with Christopher Walken. Super underutilized him. Fantastic actor, completely wasted. Completely wasted. Yeah, I mean, so, and that was part of my problem. Some of the best characters and the best actors didn't get very much screen time in these films. Like they get underutilized. Their characters kind of get gutted and left out. It just, I felt like I got cheated, because I was really excited when I found out he was playing Vladimir Harkonnen and stuff. I did like the fact that they mentioned in this film that, so I do want to say some of the positives about this film, because it's not all bad. They did mention the fact that Jessica is the daughter of Baron Vladimir Harkonnen in the film, and that by extension, they're Harkonnens. What they got wrong was where Paul's like, well, if we're Harkonnens, we're gonna act like Harkonnens. No, he never embraces that side of his heritage. Never. Paul never embraces that. Yes, he knows about it. He learns of that through the water of life and through the mental changes that he's going through as the spice enters his body and he becomes different. But yes, they did leave a lot about that out. And that he's not the Kwisatz Haderach, but that he is something else, something that was unintended. Like that gets brought out in the book, which I thought was like, I'm just like, that is so cool. And it doesn't really dwell, like in the '84 version, they really do dwell a lot on what's happening inside Paul, the changes, the fact that he knows his mother's pregnant, though she's never told anybody. Like she hadn't even told Duke Leto that she was pregnant. She had only known for a short time when Paul figures it out. But in the book, he knew about his grandfather before they reached the Frem. Yes, he figures that out before that. So, but, and they don't mention that in '84, but yeah, see the timing. Thank you for bringing that up. The timing of this film is atrocious. It is so messed up. Like I said, when they can do it better in '84 in 135 minutes, you get something wrong. Alia is born when most of this stuff is happening because she has a premature birth. She gets born early. But like she's like a young, I don't know, I don't remember exactly the age she is. I won't pretend that I do, but she is a young-ish girl, but she's born with the powers of a Reverend Mother. She's born. That's why, and they kind of allude to that in that scene in this movie, that when the transfer of the Reverend Mother to Jessica happens, there is that, oh my God, what did we just do? We just handed all of the memory, because all the memories that were supposed to really go to Jessica end up going to Alia. And like, that is like, they're like, oh my God, that's not supposed to happen. She's not trained. She's not ready. This could be horrendous, which in the end kind of is. It basically drives her insane. But yeah, Alia is also the abomination. Yes, we all got cheated out of seeing Alia. in this film. And that was another comment I got and I don't know if I'll be able to find it because there's loads. But one of the comments was Alia, maybe Denise left her out because he didn't want to have to deal with a child actor and having to make that child actor seem ancient and stuff. I'm just like, well, then you shouldn't be doing movies, because dealing with child actors and dealing with all this, that's what a director does. That's what that's not a good excuse. Anyway, so, but yes. I don't know. And I had a lot of people get mad at me because I mentioned Lord of the Rings and the fact that they treated Aragorn in Lord of the Rings very similar to how they treated Paul in this, where they make them reluctant leaders. Now, Curtis YZ had mentioned something to me about that, and he is right. So I want to clarify that comment. There are leaders that are good on both sides. You get reluctant leaders like, say, a George Washington, who became president and then did not, and then walked away he could have been king, and then he wasn't, and he didn't want that. And then he willingly walked away from the presidency afterwards. A reluctant leader, a fantastic leader, a great leader. But you also get leaders that are born to lead. Like, they are raised, they are taught, they learn the art of statecraft. They are literally born leaders, born to do it. And they know what they're doing from the moment and that's what Aragorn was. Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings books is very different than Aragorn in the Lord of the Rings movie. But the one thing, my point was, Peter Jackson, and he even says this in interviews, he did not want to put his politics, his views, his ideas, his thoughts into this movie. He wanted to make Lord of the Rings the way Tolkien wanted it. Now, it's widely known that I just lost his name. This Tolkien's son did not care for the Lord of the Rings films. I loved them. I thought they were good, but I also understood when they had to cut things out, shorten time frames, alter some things. But because even when Jackson did that, he stayed true to the story. He stayed true to the characters. Frodo in the books was Frodo in the movie. Samwise in the books was Samwise in the movie. Aragorn, that's where it got a little fuzzy. But Gandalf in the books is Gandalf in the movie. But I mean, Viggo Mortensen did such a good job with that character. Like, you don't notice it's not so jarring as like, but and in a normal film, like, I wouldn't have even critiqued that. But the Dune Part 2 had so many of those types of issues that I just mentioned it because it was just one more thing that got piled on top of the pile that I was just like, please stop adding stuff to the pile. And that's, by the time that movie got done, I was so angry that I walked in. That's all I could think. Kills them and throw them down and try to stare. I mean, I was so mad because, like, through 2.5 hours of movie, they just kept adding bad things that they'd done on top until I walked out of there weighed down with a whole bunch of "you dirty bastard" thoughts in my head. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy that. So let's see. Colin saying, in the books, okay. All right. I read that one. Then you shouldn't be doing movies. That's funny. Never read Lord of the Rings. Thanks for pointing out the Aragorn thing. You mean Simon Tolkien, J.R.'s grandson? Let's see, who complained Jackson was too faithful to the lore. No, it was, I thought it was his son that had the problem with it, that thought that they I don't know. I just gosh dang, I can't remember his name. It's Tolkien's son. He died, but I think he was still alive when those movies started to come out, at least. But no, I thought Jackson did a good job until he hit The Hobbit, and then, God, yeah, don't get me started on The Hobbit, because I have the same problem with the Hobbit films that I have with this film. They added a bunch of stuff. They took stuff out. They made it way too long. Good Lord, one of these days I'll do a deep dive into the Hobbit films, but because I mean they had a great cast. It was great, but like to just oh my gosh, I was so the first movie was good, and by the time I got to the third one, I just wanted to strangle somebody because I, for some reason, I'm odd this way, but I never thought of oh yeah, because I want to say his name. I just lost it. The Dan, Dan of the Iron Hills. When he rides in, not like a Razorback or something like cool like that, but he rides in on a piece of bacon. Like what? Oh yeah. Anyway, sorry. I digress. But I had somebody get after me for making that comparison to Lord of the Rings and stuff because they're like, Peter Jackson didn't stay true to it either. He changed a bunch of stuff and oh, Christopher, thank you. Oh, Jeff B, your lifesaver. Thank you and welcome. Thank you for being here. Yes, it was Christopher Tolkien that had some issues with the Jackson films. Like I said, and they're not perfect, but oh my gosh, I felt that they stayed as true to the real story of Lord of the Rings. Even though they could, they couldn't stick Tom Bombadil in there. They don't go through the old forest. They don't go through the Barrow Whites. I mean, he had to cut some things out, and I get that. I understand. You got 3 movies that are extremely long, but you also had 3 really long, in-depth books. So, yeah, but see, all right, Curtis, I'm going to disagree with you, but I love you, so just take my criticism. I Blade Runner 2049 was okay. I thought it was okay. Not my favorite. I didn't think it really the visual, like I said, visually it was good. But I like where they took the story and kind of how they went with it. It was like I don't know, but I didn't feel like he betrayed the whole story behind that. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like that was a horrible thing. And the Battle of Five Armies was okay, but honestly, I'm gonna say this, and it's probably gonna make people mad. The animated Hobbit, I thought did a better job with the Battle of Five Armies, and all they really did was use little dots in there. It looks like arrows shooting between little dots. I'm sorry, John. I don't mean to mess with you there. No, but see, that's what I was like. The Battle of Five Armies, I thought that the battle in front of, oh, good Lord, Return of the King, the battle there at, oh my heck, I am getting too old. I can't remember things that I want to remember. The Bane City, no, not Gondolin. All right, Lord, I apologize. Anyway, it's the big battle in Return of the King. I thought they did a better job with that than what they did for the Battle of Five Armies, which I thought was a little disappointing. Because Battle of Five Armies, you kind of think, well, that's going to be a lot. That's going to be, I have to say, though, the stuff they did with the dwarves, the twirly birds, and there was some cool crap in that battle. There really was. I will totally give you that, John. There was some good stuff in that, but like they added and they took away and they didn't, like the worms coming up out of the ground and the whole Bolg story. Anyway, don't get me going on the Hobbit again. You can't distract me, John. Otherwise, I'll never get back. Yeah, I know I've got an awesome chat, don't I, today? They are really doing some awesome stuff. I love all you guys, and thank you so much for being here. So we've been going for about an hour, so I don't know if you guys can stand any more of me, but yeah, seriously, one thing I learned is don't always trust reviewers, and especially don't trust reviewers who go and watch something that's based off of a series of books and stuff like that, who aren't actually, like, that was the thing. I went back and watched Nerdrotic. I watched his review again, and he does say, I'm not a fan. I don't really know that much about it, but I thought it was a good film. But he was so lavish in his praise that I didn't expect all the feminism and the subtle and understated feminism that happened, because there wasn't a lot of that in the first film. In the first part one, there was not a lot. The second one, good Lord. Oh, it was everywhere. Like how Stilgar gets treated, the way that the girls in the Siege Tabor speak to Paul and treat Paul, and you're an outsider and you don't know anything, despite the fact that my father's Leah Kynes and he wasn't Fremen either until we became a friend. Anyway, yeah, there was just, and like, I'm sorry, but Zendaya, I don't like her. She has resting bitch face, and she didn't do terrible in this. I'll have to say, I didn't hate her in this, but I did hate what they did with Chani. The fact that they make her turn away from Paul at the end of that does not happen in the book. She is not a pouty little, pardon my French here, she's not a pouty little bitch in the books like she gets portrayed in the. He's gonna marry Irulan and he hurt my fifis. Oh, Chani understands. Chani knows what Paul has to do to bring peace. He knows, she gets it. But look, because she understands that Paul loves her, and her marriage to Irulan is political. Like, he doesn't love her, he's not going to sleep with her, she's not going to have his children, like none of that. She gets none of that side of Paul. She is his wife in name only, and Chani is smart enough and secure enough in her womanhood and understands enough that she knows that. And it pissed me off that they turned her into a whiny. Wow. Yeah. Sorry. Can you see the vein throbbing in my neck? I might have a stroke right on here. But yeah, no, master wordsmith. Yeah. Let's see. Jeff B. As with most IPs, I read the books before the movies. I was even made, and movies rarely capture the true story. And that's the sad part. You know, the funny thing is though, and somebody did say a different point than what you're saying, Jeff B. That somebody said to me, if you want a book, just go read a book. You're never going to get a true adaptation from a movie. And I was instantly pissed off. Not because he said it different than you did, Jeff. He was basically giving them cover, saying, oh, you're never going to get a good adaptation, so just let them do whatever they want. And then no, I don't believe in that at all. You hold these people's feet to the fire because they will always go as bad as you will let them go. And if we don't hold them accountable when they're dealing with our IPs, the IPs that we love, that we grew up with, that are part of our lives, that were created by Frank Herbert, you either stay true to that or go make your own damn thing. Don't come in and pollute somebody else's idea. And I actually wanted to ask Adega to speak to this, because Adega, as many of you know, is a writer. He is creating worlds of his own. He has a series of books. For those of you who don't know, go look up Adega and go find his books and get his books. They are fantastic. He is an amazing creator, creating fantastic worlds. And I'll bet you, and Adega, you can speak to this in the chat, but if somebody took and adapted your work, what would you want from them? Would you want them to stay true to what you did, or would you be okay with them just going in and doing whatever the heck with it after they bought the rights or whatever? Anyway, I'll let you have a chance to respond to that if you can, if you want to. But I would assume I'll play Adega devil's advocate here, that Adega is not going to want that. He's not going to want somebody to go in and bastardize Children of the Directive, which, if you haven't read Children of the Directive, is so good. Adega does fantastic work. You really, really need to go check him out. CH says it's the ego of the filmmakers who want to leave their own mark on property, whether they admit it or not. A freaking man, CH. You are 100% correct. Absolutely. That is exactly the way I think about it. So we're on a wavelength here. Adega says time compression maybe, but never actual. Yeah, exactly. I realize, but like what they did I keep going back between. I'm comparing the 84 and the current films, and you might get tired of me doing that, but They do something crazy in film called passage of time. And sometimes they'll show a series of clips to express time passing on. Because you can't actually show 4 years in a 2-hour movie. You have to compress the time and actually make it seem like that time. You have to kind of show a series of events laid out, and they did that in 84 during the fights on Arrakis, where they're bringing spice production to an end. They do kind of a montage, which is like Chani and Paul's love grew, and Beast Raban is trying to prevent the Baron from learning of his failures, and they show these series of events that show the period of 4 years. It shows Alia getting older and stuff, and it's not that complicated. It's really not. It's been being done in film for as long as there's been film, and it's like Denis Villeneuve went, I don't know how to do that. And I had somebody made a comment to me that, well, montages were fine back in the 80s, but you can't do them now. What a retarded thing to say. I apologize. That's probably mean of me to say that, but what? Oh, they did it in the 80s, so you can't do it now? How about you do it better than they did in the 80s? There's a thought. It's crazy, I know. Hey, Brandon, my brother from another mother, how are you? Thanks for popping in today. Brandon, the anime guy. But yeah, no, it's just... I truly don't understand these people that just want to give Hollywood cover for their mistakes. I just say, call them out for the stuff that they did wrong. Call them out when they're not doing what they should be doing. Praise them for what they get right. Tell them when they do stuff that gets wrong, because that's what I ask people to do for me. If I'm making mistakes, I had somebody who did some fairly critical comments of how I did some of the stuff in my video, but it was constructive criticism, and I can take that all day long, no matter how hard it is. Because I have no illusions as to I'm a master communicator or that I'm the best YouTuber in the world. I'm obviously not, and so I always want to be getting better. But it's like the people in Hollywood. Like CH said, like their egos won't let them. Their egos won't let them. So, and I'm gonna out myself here. Now as a transgender, gay, or anything like that. But I like the Twilight series. I know. I'm seeking to go into a therapy group. No, just kidding. The book series. Let me. I like the Twilight books. I thought they were good. I love vampire stories. I'm a huge vampire fan. Anything vampire that's done even remotely well, like the Underworld series and stuff, I'm totally there. I'm totally in. But the films of the Twilight series were just garbage, especially the first one. The first one was the worst. But my point is, in the second Twilight, in the series of films, the second book is called New Moon. It in my opinion is the weakest of the books in that series. But the director, I remember watching a commentary on the director that was directing New Moon, and he said in that interview, he says, "This isn't my work. This is somebody else's work. I'm just being asked to bring it to the screen. That's my job. That's my job to bring this to the screen and to try and stay as faithful as I can in my adaptation." And it was by far and away, that was the closest out of the books. It's just sad that he got the worst of the books to actually direct, and then they didn't give him any more of the other ones. But seriously, if I was a guy in Hollywood and I owned an IP, or if I was Warner Brothers and I was about to buy Star Trek, or which that's a rumor people are passing around, I would go find that guy and have him direct literally anything that was somebody else's IP, because there's a director who gets it. There's a director who understands what his job is. If you're brought in to direct a Star Wars film, if you're brought in to direct a Star Trek film or Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever, if you're brought in to do that, That's the mindset that you need to have. And as a screenwriter, same thing. You're not there to prove how smart you are, except for in how well you can translate somebody else's work to the screen. That's your only job. And if you can't do that, if you stick your own ideas in there and you alter the story and change everything to suit your message, you've done something terribly, terribly wrong, and you should be beaten with a wet noodle. And I don't know why Hollywood cannot get that correct, but they can't. They just refuse because of their egos, because of whatever. But so I'm going to end with this comment, maybe one more. But it says, this is from Milton 1448. I've seen it twice, meaning the second film, and it is still as insufferable. Chani is still as insufferable as the first time. Bit of a swing and a miss. Again, too much focus on modern audiences that don't exist. And that is one of the biggest problems that we see from Hollywood. And I'm not the first, nor will I be the last to say this, but that's one of the biggest problems, is that the Hollywood is making movies for audiences that don't exist. And the box office is showing that. Now, they've got a bit of a tempest in a teapot with Dune Part 2, but honestly, I think Dune Part 2 is gaining a lot of its success for the fact that we have lowered our expectations. We have lowered our what we want to see out of Hollywood down so far that anything that looks moderately decent is coming across as gold. I know that that's kind of how I am. Let's see. So Cost says, I watched all of The Good Wife and Good Fight twice. You've got nothing on me. Thanks. You gave me back my man card. Thanks, I appreciate that. That was good. I agree with both of your last takes. Too bad you have to go. Oh, I disagree. I mean, my bad. Brad of the Anime says, yes, lowered expectation. Standards are gone. And it is true. We're suffering from a dry spell of films we're not expecting anything from them. So when they do even the least amount of moderately okay, we're like, oh, it didn't completely suck. Oh, yes. And I'm sorry, but I expect more. My standards have not sunk that low. It's like, if you say it's going to be Dune, it damn well better be Dune. Anyway, but yeah, it's kind of sad that that's where we're at. I have been watching Angel Studios. They're kind of a new player coming to the scene that they're trying to make good films. They're trying to be selective. They're trying to, I haven't seen all their movies, but I have seen a couple, and it seems like they're a studio that kind of gets it, that they understand the way I'm going to make a movie. I don't know that they've really got they're all the way, as technically advanced as they need to be to doing some of the movies that they're doing. But I am looking forward to more film studios, hopefully coming out that are more independent, that can show Hollywood the way back. Unfortunately, I don't know that there is a way back for Hollywood, because they seem to learn all the wrong message, or all the wrong things from the stuff that happens to them. They're like that child that gets burned and it's just like, you know what, I like being burned. It's like, no, you're a weirdo, and apparently you have no nerve endings. But yeah, I hope as they keep producing films, they get better, because I think they could eventually become a serious player out there, if they can overcome some of their limitations, being where they are, as kind of a newcomer. So, but I also got a lot of comments telling me that I didn't understand the books. which I thought was funny. I'm just like, really? Okay. They're like, you missed the messages and stuff. It's just like, well, see, with any literary work, I'm gonna pick up things that other people don't. It's just like, now I'm a religious person, so when I read the scriptures, like I learn something different every time because I'm different. My perspective is different. I'm not always in the same place. Same thing for any series of books. When you read them, sometimes you're going to get something different out, or you're going to notice something that you didn't notice the last time. And so I think, but I mean, the important thing is to try and get what Frank Herbert was trying to get across in his work, which is somewhat the dangers of religion, the dangers of unquestioning faith. I'm very blessed in the fact that my faith teaches us to ask questions. That we're not asked to have a blind faith. Blind faith can be a very dangerous thing. And I think that's one of the things that Herbert was trying to get across in these novels and stuff. And the fact that cultures can be manipulated and stuff. What the Bene Gesserits do there, I mean, they talk about that in the books, is that the fact that the Bene Gesserits focus almost solely on politics and eugenics. They're trying to create the perfect human by breeding people. They're a scary group of people. It's like the Nazis and all the crazy people in history all balled up into one, and without all of the crazy. Does that make sense? They're not terrible, but they're not exactly doing good things either. So it's a fascinating series of books, and I love Dune. I'm going through it. I'm reading it again. I went back and watched the '84 version, and like I said, it still strikes me every time I watch that film of how close the dialogue actually was to the books, and stuff. That Lynch did such a good job with that. Is where I didn't mind Timothée Chalamet as Paul Atreides. He was actually closer to what Paul is in the book. He's 15 years old at the time of Dune. And then he gets older. But I think Kyle MacLachlan did such a good job with that character. And I think it was because he was a little older. Like he had more life experience. He had more, like he could do the emotional range and exude some of the things that maybe Timothy hasn't experienced yet in his life. But still, I thought the actors did a good job for the most part with what they were given. So Brandon says, I do understand. Okay, I think I'm missing part of a conversation here. I won't go back all the way through that whole conversation, but yeah. So I just want to thank you guys for being here. I appreciate you guys showing up and supporting me in my channel and stuff. It means a great deal to me. This is the first time I've live streamed in probably almost a year and a half. But I just felt like I wanted to talk about these things because it's important. It's important to me that when things are done wrong, there are mistakes made in films, we need to be willing to call it out, be nice, be kind, but also explain, hey, it's important to get this stuff right. Okay, not like some religious fervor, but it is important to get this right because that was somebody's life's work. Like you're messing with Frank Herbert's life's work, and that's not something you should do and feel okay about any more than like what they've done with the Lord of the Rings series with the Rings of Power. Like that is just a Travis Shamockery that would, I mean, if Tolkien was alive today, I don't know. I think, he would write a much more eloquent takedown and absolutely destroy those people who did what they did to the Rings of Power. I mean, because that's just a mockery. Anyway, thank you guys for being here. I love you all. Be good to each other, and we will talk to you next time. See you around.